Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to today's Facebook Live. I'm Rahima Esop, and I'm the communications lead for the Zero Dropout campaign. And today we are talking about innovative approaches to literacy as the world marks International Literacy Day, reminding us all of the importance of promoting reading in our communities. So research shows that reading to children at a young age has a positive effect on their learning. The interaction between adult and child is also important for fostering a supportive, caring relationship. But it's not always possible for many caregivers and parents because they lack the confidence in their own literacy skills. Around 750 million adults around the world, 2/3 of whom are women, lack basic reading and writing skills. It's such a big problem that UNESCO has adopted a strategy and adopted the strategy last year to promote youth and adult literacy. So the initiatives we are highlighting today brings adults and children together to promote reading while taking into consideration the challenges that we have of low literacy among adults in marginalized communities. These initiatives help adults with low levels of literacy to overcome challenges with educating their own children. And here's how and what they're doing. They're finding original ways to promote literacy. They're supporting adults with information and tools to make reading a fun activity to do at home with their children. And they're helping adults to nurture resilient and curious children. So let's start by introducing our panelists. We have Phumza Ndamase, who heads up the Reading for Meaning program, which is a strategic initiative within the Zero Dropout campaign. So I call her Phumza, and I also call her my colleague. She has extensive experience in strategic community development and finding sustainable solutions for youth and early childhood development. We have Puseletso Mofokeng. She is the training coordinator for Mikulu Child Development Trust. She's a trainer, a project manager, and researcher, and she previously worked for Save the Children South Africa and the Medical Research Council. And then last but not least, we have Ntokozo Ndlovu. He is the co-founder of the Siyafunda Donator Book Foundation, which aims to transform rural schools into self-reliant institutions. Now, the foundation came up with an innovative way of ensuring schools without proper infrastructure can still have libraries by repurposing rubbish bins. And he'll tell us more about that when we start this conversation. I'm really eager to hear about that initiative. So I want to start our discussion this evening by bringing Phumza in to tell us more about how the Reading for Meaning program, how the methodology differs from other literacy programs out there. Hi, Phumza.
Hi, Rahima, and hello to my colleagues, Dogos and Puseletso. So I'll be talking about the Reading for Meaning program, and basically the difference with the Reading for Meaning program and how we do things differently is that we use a methodology that's known as teaching at the right level. So this methodology is from an organization called Pratham, and it works. And what it focuses on is teaching children at the right level, at the level they are at. So meeting children where they are at. So we know that there's a lot of organization in the country that do specific literacy work and literacy development work between the grades, like grade 1 up to grade 3. But there aren't organizations that are actually focusing on grade 5 learners, which is where the gap is. Because if those learners are missed in the foundational phase, it means there's no plan to catch them up later on. So the Reading for Meaning program focuses on catching up those learners, if they're those learners that have missed this foundational literacy skills from their foundation phase, and therefore helping them to be able to still read for meaning and getting them motivated to stay in school. Because we know that learners who are able to read for meaning are more likely to stay in school than learners who are not able to read for meaning. So we have created stories, we have chosen stories that are very relevant in terms of the context that children can actually see themselves in and actually understand. And we've created activities that are fun and exciting and very easy and accessible to do for adults, parents and caregivers to do with their children at home to support their learning as well. And that's how we differ as the Reading for Meaning program, that we use the teaching at the right level methodology, which is what we do is we group learners according to the level that they're able to read in, and we give them appropriate activities for that particular level. So instead of teaching everyone the same way, even though they don't understand the same way, we are targeting the specific needs for each individual child.
Puseletso, let's bring you into the conversation, because when it comes to innovation, Mikulu Development Trust is at the forefront. Mikulu has turned evidence-based research into a workable program for caregivers in low and middle income communities using the concept of dialogic book sharing, which are wordless picture books. Now, I must be honest, prior to hearing about Mikulu, I had no idea what dialogic book sharing is, and I had to Google it. So please enlighten us. Tell us more about this initiative.
Hi, everyone, and all the listeners as well. Dialogic book sharing is a special interaction between a parent and a child that happens while sharing a wordless book, meaning books with no words, just with pictures only. And it differs from reading because it is more, the more importance in it, it's more about the parent engaging a child into a conversation or a dialogue while using the book. So the wordless books to us, they are more creating creativity and imagination, and they can be used as well by each and every parent. Any parent can use it. It does not discriminate according to literacy. So even if a parent does not know how to read or write, they are able to use our books to have a conversation with their child, because Mikulu Trust believes that each and every parent has their own imagination and anyone can create a story. And the stories, our picture books speak about feelings, they speak about characters, they speak about thoughts. So it's basically going through the book, a wordless picture book with your child and exploring anything that your child wants to talk about. Yeah.
And it's really important because it helps adults with low levels of literacy really overcome challenges with educating their children.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
And Thokozo, I'm going to bring you in. Without books, whether they are wordless picture books or reading for meaning books, without books and access to resources, we cannot promote literacy. So your initiative has helped to get thousands of books to disadvantaged rural communities. And in instances where there are no libraries, your organization innovated by bringing rubbish bins into makeshift book stands. So I want to hear more about that. Tell me about that.
All right, great stuff. Good evening to my panelists, Phumza, Puseletso, and the host. And good evening to the viewers at home. Yeah, when you are talking about, we don't call them the rubbish bin, we call it umqomo wolwazi. That's a Zulu word saying umqomo. When you break up that word, umqomo, it's a bin, and then ulwazi, it's knowledge. So we call them umqomo wolwazi. It's called the bin of knowledge in English. So yeah, it's a trolley library type of, which can store plus minus 500 books, depending on the sizes of the book. We came up with this idea because we thought that it could serve the purpose of creating that access to libraries in rural schools. And we believe that libraries do not have to be exotic, beautiful buildings. It can be just a small trolley library, umqomo wolwazi, which will be very flexible, moving from one class to another class. So teachers will be able to share this umqomo wolwazi because it has the wheels. So we've learned that through the first 10 trolley libraries we donated to KZN schools in 2016, that it's more efficient as compared to a built brick and mortar library, which it will create a lot of chaos in school when children are moving in and out of the classroom. So we rather move the trolley library into the classroom and then exchange just like that. So we think out of the bin because we seek to redefine the purpose of a dustbin.
I love that, the bin of knowledge. And Masiza on Facebook has called you into Ntokozo a bookologist. I don't think you've told that before. Where does that come from?
Oh, the word comes from, there's a lady she's currently in Kenya, and she's my friend. We met on the social media, Facebook. And because she sees me in this campaign traveling, talking books and in schools, and then she said, let me just give you a name today because that's what you live for. You eat books, you sleep books, you think books, you walk books, you love books, and so on. So he said, you are a bookologist.
You should have used that in your introduction when I was reading out your bio. Next time I will. You should put that on your link.
Awesome.
Bookologist.
Awesome, awesome. I'll do that.
So I'm going to move on to the second part of the conversation, which is about how and it's building on what we've already spoken about, specifically Puseletso, what you've spoken about. How do we support adults with the information and the tools that they need to make reading a fun activity to do at home, but also to make it an activity that adults and children can bond over so that we can build resilient and curious children. As I mentioned in the introduction, parents and caregivers do not always feel confident about reading to their children or giving constructive feedback when their child is having trouble with their reading. In fact, in our experience, and Pumza will attest to this, many parents don't know how to even spot when their child is having trouble reading. So I'll start with you. Mikulu believes that adults, regardless of their education level, can foster nurturing relationships by reading with their children, not to their children, but with their children, if given the right tools. Tell us about this.
Yes. As much as book sharing gives the opportunity that stems up conversations while using a worthless book, we also believe that through conversation and dialogue, that's when children learn better, right? There's a scientific notion that is called serve-turn, right? This means that a child serves by showing interest into something, and then a parent returns the serve by actually responding to the child's serve positively. Let me take an example. With book sharing, what we use simple techniques such as pointing and naming, right? Let's say a child is holding a book and doesn't know what this book is. So the parent will say, oh, that's a lovely book. Do you want us to read? So by responding to what the child's serve is, then a child gets to learn about this item, it's a book. So there are also other ways such as following your child's interest. I know in previous groups of parents that we have had, this has been an adjustment for them to actually follow the child's lead, because normally in our cultures, it's like children has to listen to what the parent is saying, right? So we train parents as well, give them a tool to how to understand how to follow your child's lead by simply also using a book. You don't pay for your child, you allow your child to go to a section that they are interested in, and you talk about that section. So we also use what and who and where questions, where a parent can ask if a child knows the word. If the child doesn't know a word, the parent can just point and name something that the child learns. And we also teach children to understand about how the activities that happen in any book can also relate to the child's everyday experiences, right? Like what they wear, what they eat, everything that involves the children. So when we teach these techniques, we also teach them with our own language, their own language of choice, right? It's not that they are taught in English only. They can also be translated in whether it's Xhosa or Sesotho, right? Where a parent can learn how to use these techniques using their own language, because we believe that also the language, mother tongue, also captures the child's culture and identity, and a child can learn better in that way.
Yeah. You know, what you said about following the child's interest resonates with what we are saying as the Zero Dropout campaign, when we say that caring, supportive adults play such an important role in a child's learning journey. And how do parents show support and care? By asking the child what they are curious about, asking the child what they're interested in, what subjects are you interested in? Let's talk about your ideas. So it really does resonate with the values of our campaign. So I think, Ntokozo, let me come to you. In rural communities where there is a need for libraries, and I think you mentioned either a little earlier or in our previous conversation that some learners have never actually seen a library. How can we assist adults to facilitate reading? Because simply giving them books isn't enough.
Yeah, you've mentioned the serious points there. We have a serious challenge, especially within our Black rural communities, where you find that adults are not literate. That's the first challenge we have. And they want their children to be literate. That's why they send them to schools. And when they get to these schools, the school's infrastructure on its own, it's a bit not stable and not in good condition. For instance, you don't have a proper functioning library, and it's even worse because you don't even have proper textbooks for that are essential for studying. So you get to schools where children are sharing a textbook. Maybe there are 4 in a textbook, so they have to share the textbook according to which part of society or part of the community they live in, so that they can meet after hours and do maybe homework and stuff like that. So, but this is a very important question that you asked. How do we now ensure that our adults are literate so that they will be able to monitor and inspire children to learn and read more, especially? So we need initiatives that will go and do family visits, of which it's a bit of, it's expensive in terms of sustaining it, because you need to have human power on the ground, you need to have human resources, you need to have books, you need to have workbooks for these adults. And again, you need to spend more time in this family's household, especially in rural areas, and teaching these adults. So it's a bit of a journey. However, we are not yet there because our priorities are the children. However, we say in Zulu, umthende uhlaba usamila. You know, you teach them while they're still young so that they could shine and show the world who they are. So that's why we focus more in primary schools, because children in primary schools, they can still listen and they're very curious with a very inquisitive minds, that they would want to, because some of them you get to schools, they haven't even owned a book, just one book, a brand new book for that matter, not a second-hand book, of which we mostly have brand news and second-hand. So you can see the buzz, the excitement when you get to schools with these books. It's such a great feeling. However, there's still a lot more work that needs to be done after just giving the kid the book. So what we do is we then start book clubs from the class up until according to grades. So we start book clubs and then we give them just the draft of how to form a book club and how to run a book club, and then promotion of reading material that they could use as a book club, you know, your chart, book reviews, you know, and so forth. So that's what we do. And we hope that when they get home, they will read for their parents. That's what we are pushing them to do, to read for, even if parents don't understand. You know, in African tradition, we have something that is called oral oral literature, which is when storytelling. You know, our grannies, they would tell like great stories just out of their minds. You know, they're not reading it down somewhere or something like that. So what we want our children to do is to go back home and read for their parents, and read for their grannies, and read for their loved ones, so that they could be also inspired to say, let me see, what is it that you are reading? Or if you are having a challenge, let me just assist you. What does this word mean? And so on and so on and so on. So there's still a long way to go.
Thanks for that. I love the way that you explain how things unfold in the community. It really gives us a sense of the culture, the kind of difficulties that they face. Phumza, I want to get to you, because the Reading for Meaning program does focus on parents and caregivers who are in these rural communities. Particularly, let's talk about the Eastern Cape, where you are currently based, because you are running a training program. How does Reading for Meaning support caregivers?
I actually want to build on what Ntokozo said. He literally took the words out of my mouth. I wanted to say, when we look at parents and caregivers, we must not think the deficit of them like not being able to read, that kind of literacy, that there is oral literacy that they have. Those skills are very important, and that's something that we have to build on, because they already have that that fountain where they know how to tell stories, they know how to engage with children and actually share information through stories. And that's something that's been happening for generations and generations, especially in our culture, in the communities that we serve. So as the Reading for Meaning program, what we've done is we've taken stories that are relevant. So in our collection of stories, you'll find stories about animals, African animals. You'll find stories about celebrating people. So for example, we celebrate the Vusi, the other guy who who summited the Kilimanjaro and Everest like multiple times. So we want children to see these people as people that look like them, as people that they can relate to, and also think, well, I can achieve that as well. So we've selected stories that are relevant in terms of the South African or African context. We've selected stories that are not too complicated or too easy, but just right for all the learners to be able to understand at the different levels. And so what we've done with these stories is that we've created activities for parents to work with children at home, and I'll get to the specifics of what those activities are. And then we've also created activities for practitioners who are working with children, so people who have reading clubs, for example. And what we've done is we've made these accessible through WhatsApp, because we know that WhatsApp is the most accessible platform that most people use. And therefore, if we bring these resources to the people, that we're able to have, because sometimes it's not that parents don't want to assist, it's just that they don't have access to these kind of resources. So we've done activities. For example, one of the activity would be, after you read the story with the child, or the child has read the story to you, then maybe do a role play the story, or you become the character and the child becomes the character. Or we say, encourage the child to write a letter to a character, or rewrite the ending of the story, and those things. Those kind of activities are very stimulating for the child, but also for the parents, because it gets them thinking, it gets them conversing and looking deeper into what is within the stories. So not only have we done those activities, we've also gone further to produce how-to videos. So you said before when we started that sometimes parents don't know which level their children are reading at. You're sitting at home thinking, oh, my child can read, but in actual fact, the child is struggling and they need extra support. So what we've done is we've done a how-to video that explains how you can assess which level your child is reading at home. So you can sit with your child for 5 minutes, do the assessment, and it will determine if your child is reading at only letter level or word or sentence or paragraph. And also to see if they actually understand, even if they can read the words, but do they actually understand the words that they're reading? And then you can take it from there to say, okay, where do I start? How do I level my my activities for the child and help them? Because remember, we said we're teaching at the right level, and that is very key with us. And for parents who are not able to read, we've created audiobooks. So for example, Lala, my son, who's 7 years old, when I'm lazy to read a story, I'll just go onto the WhatsApp or the the Zero Dropout Reading for Meaning website, and I will play a story and we'll listen to the story, and he will sing along, because some of the stories have songs in them and we can sing along together. And sometimes when we are going to do shopping and he will write, I'll say, just write stuff on the grocery list. So you're basically getting the children get used to doing these activities. They become part of your everyday life in the home, right? And also these stories children find very helpful for them. So for example, when we did the pilot, last year, we implemented the program in East London and in Paarl. And then after we finished implementing, we had like focus group discussions with parents, with learners, with teachers to get feedback so that we could learn from how we've implemented the program. And one of the key things that the children said about the program was that it made them feel seen. So it made them feel heard, it made them feel seen, because doing these activities, they were given opportunities to learn from where they are. Whereas sometimes in the classroom, they feel like they need to shut up because they're told they're not smart enough. And the curriculum maybe focuses on a certain level of children, and it moves with those that are moving, and the ones that are not moving are left behind. And so we want, as the Reading for Meaning, for everyone to feel included, to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel like they are part of the program and they're part of the solution, because the aim here is to reduce school dropout. And we're doing that by ensuring that children are able to read for meaning, because if they're able to read for meaning, they are motivated to stay in school because they pass. And so the key is that everyone has a role to play. Parents, caregivers have a role to play, teachers, and everyone generally in the community. So we have all of these resources that we've created, and they're beautiful stories with beautiful pictures that people can easily find on WhatsApp or on our website that they can use at home. So that's how we are supporting parents as the Reading for Meaning program.
Thanks, Phumza. You know, Ntokozo, I want to come back to you because it seems that the tradition of oral literacy is very strong with you in the way that you tell stories, like I mentioned a little earlier. And Masiza on Facebook responded to your comment saying that she is she was proudly raised with the tradition of oral literacy or oral literature from her mother, who was illiterate, and she says that it works absolute magic. And what I like about the tradition of oral literature, telling stories, let's just call it telling stories, is that it preserves memory and it preserves history. It's a way of preserving culture through that tradition of telling stories, getting adult and child together or adult and adult together. Puseleta, I'm going to come back to you. This year's focus for International Literacy Day asks what impact COVID-19 is having on youth and adult literacy teaching and learning initiatives. So we know that after-school literacy programs have been affected, schooling has been disrupted. COVID-19 has unsettled our lives in so many ways. How have literacy building initiatives that you are aware of and that you are involved in, whether for adults or children, how have they been affected by COVID-19, the pandemic, the lockdown, the school closures?
Yeah. As you know, that as Mukulu Trust, we are responsible for training organizations that go and then train parents and implement book sharing program in the community. This affected us somehow, a little bit, because we then missed out of the personal contact, with people in the communities. As Phumza mentioned, that the face-to-face with the parents and the face-to-face training with our facilitators, we couldn't able to do that anymore. And our facilitators, most of them in the organization, had to pause their implementation of the program because they couldn't recruit any parent because of COVID, and it stopped the scaling up, of the book sharing. But we had to also, as an organization, come up with as much as it's a difficult and challenging time, it also presented us with a lot of opportunities for us to go online our online visibility of Mkhulu Trust became more visible. We ran a Facebook Live parenting program where we took parents on a weekly basis on how to conduct book sharing. We had also we were sending out WhatsApp content that talks about book sharing with picture books loaded in, and we also encourage open up WhatsApp sports, WhatsApp sports for our facilitators, also motivate them in motivating the parents to continue book sharing at home.
We were losing you towards the end, but you were talking about the Facebook Lives and the online training to communicate with parents and caregivers. So you were going to the digital domain to try and communicate and reach parents. I think it was breaking up ever so slightly. Phumza, Reading for Meaning has done something similar.
Yes, we have done something similar as well. So before COVID, our program was primarily face-to-face. So we engaged with the learners face-to-face. And the impact of that is that it's an after-school program. So it happens in the school, after school, and we engage with learners face-to-face. And so we had to think about how do we keep engagement going even during the lockdown period, and also considering all the other challenges that different people experience from different communities. And so we took all our materials that were physical materials and we adapted them to into digital, and we modified them to make them look a lot more simple, to be a lot more simpler and easy to use or download. So we then partnered with Funza to make our resources available on the WhatsApp platform. And then we also launched the Zero Dropout website, which is where the Reading for Meaning resources also sit. And so that's how we've kind of navigated during this period. But the nice thing is that also now we are doing both. So we are back to doing face-to-face, like I'm here in East London training people face-to-face. But then on the other side right now, as I'm doing the training in East London, there's training happening in Cape Town and in KZN, but it's happening online. So we've learned a lot of things. It's given us an opportunity to actually expand our reach and look for different ways in which we can reach people with the program and the resources that we offer.
Just on the digital resources, Mama DK on Facebook said, Sis Phumza, she loves your idea about the playing the audiobook, the audiobooks that you play for Lala.
Yeah, Lala. His favorite is the singing sex, so maybe you guys can check it out because I think I sing very well on that one.
Very well on that one too. So I want to move the discussion now to a theme which has been prevalent throughout this conversation. It's about how do we support adults to nurture resilient and curious children? So there's evidence to show that reading to young children improves schooling outcomes, regardless of their family background or home environment. This is the kids' family background or home environment. We also know that having a meaningful, trusting relationship with a caring adult can make a big difference in a child's life and lead to better educational outcomes. That relationship is so crucial. Parents are key role players within the education ecosystem and within the child's learning journey, not only for good educational outcomes, but also for building well-rounded, resilient, curious children to become well-rounded adults. Puseletso, let's start with you. Fostering this nurturing adult-child relationship through reading, through the dialogic book sharing is so important for many reasons. Let's talk about some of the benefits. Let's unmute.
Sorry about that.
Can she hear you?
The benefit of dialogical book sharing for us is that it introduces parents to the concept of development and the importance of it, right? A parent is not just hearing about development and its importance when they go to the clinic. They also understand how am I as a parent contributing to my child's development in an everyday basis, right? It also puts the tools of development into the caregiver's hand. It's not that an ECD practitioner is the one who's supposed to stimulate your child and teach them about, you know, colors or how to also point out objects or characters in the book, but it's also about a parent doing so in their own comfort of their home, like it was lockdown right now. So a lot of parents who were doing book sharing, they were able to continue, you know, with stimulating their child brain development skills, right? And also, it's more about creating opportunities for bonding, you know, children to feel more secure with their parent, because it's in secure relationships where a child, you know, it's built holistically and they build their own confidence and they feel supported by the parent. For the benefit of the child, children learn new words and they can learn their language at home and learn other languages as well. They learn how to concentrate by learning how to page a book from the start of the page, the back of the page. They also learn how to, you know, paying attention as well, being creative and using their own imaginative skills, learning how to also solve problems, right? And how to talk about their own feelings. You know, in our cultures mostly, children are not seen as in people who have an opinion. You know, when you are young, even the saying of saying children have a right when you're about 18 and older, that's when you have rights. You know, but it needs to be said when even a voice of a child, it's listened through birth, you know, even before they are born, they have a voice, you know. So children learn how to express themselves, to talk about what is good, what is not good about them. They learn different points of view that people have. They learn about intentions that people have, good or bad. It also encourages child participation. You know, immediately when a child comes and says, "Mom, it's time for our special time to do book sharing." Children are already learning that there are certain things that they can do and initiate with their own parents, and parents listen to. And it also prepares the child to go to school mostly. Yeah.
And also to sort of make sense of the world around them, really, navigate and make sense of the world around them. Phumza, your thoughts?
So one of our principles as the Reading for Meaning program is that we believe every child needs a loving connection, just a simple loving connection to help nurture their potential, because we also believe that every child has potential that needs to be nurtured in order for them to develop into the well-rounded individuals or well-rounded adults that you were referring to earlier, and also for them to just generally do better in their lives, in their academic lives as well. So having that person that cares, I mean, you can think about this when you were younger and you had someone, whether it was a teacher or whether it was someone from church or someone from the community who showed interest in what you were doing, who showed interest in you as a person, that person would motivate you to want to do better. So it's not just you wanting to account to yourself, but you are being accountable to the other person because you don't want to disappoint them as well, because they've shown that they care. And so having someone that listens to you as a child is very important. And so in order for us to build resilient, confident children, we first have to listen to them. We have to engage. We have to make them feel seen. We have to give them a voice so that they're able to speak. Like Upuseletsa is saying that if a child is initiating something, then your response should be positive. If they're saying, let's read, as a parent, it's your responsibility or caregiver as an adult to support that child. And so the Reading for Meaning program promotes all of that. We promote caring, we're promoting love, because these are like the foundation of having children that will develop to be well-rounded adults, right? And if you take out that one of those foundations, you take out love, or you take out education and stimulation, there's something that's missing, and the child then misses that, and they're not able to fully grow into their true potential. They're not able to thrive as they should. And so we always encourage, also as part of our training with the young people that we work with that facilitate the Reading for Meaning program, that it is important that children feel seen, because we've built the Reading for Meaning sessions to be inclusive spaces, to be safe spaces for children. Because a lot of the times, and I mean, we spoke to the children last year, and some would say, throughout the day in the classroom, you're being shouted at, you're being screamed at, no one is listening to you. At home, you're being ordered around, you're told you must do this and do that, but no one listens to you. But when they come into this kind of space where they feel free, they feel the freedom to express how they feel and express themselves, they feel like we belong here. And that's something that's very important to us as the Reading for Meaning program. And so for us to have young people who are resilient, we need to then commit to that, committing to caring for them, committing to loving children, committing to listening and actually hearing what they're saying and engaging them, and not just seeing them as just young people who don't know anything, because children are not empty vessels. They have something to offer, and you talk and you teach them things. And for example, I'll just make a short example. My 7-year-old, so I've taught him stuff about thank you, the basics, thank you, I'm sorry, and all of that. So if he does something for you and you don't say anything, he'll stand there and then he will say, Mom, a thank you would be nice. Just to remind you, you need to say thank you, because I've taught him to say thank you. So he understands the importance of thank you. So that's the kind of, those are the kind of things that we have in the program. That's the kind of relationship that we built, because it's a very relational program. And so even moving into the digital space where there's, we're doing the programs via WhatsApp, we've very much emphasized with the people that we train that we still need to keep to those principles. We still need to keep to the values, because our values are that we respect children, we love children, we nurture children. And so wherever you go, you need to take that with you, whether it's a face-to-face implementation or it's a digital implementation. That's the core of who we are as the Reading for Meaning program.
Something I should have made. Go ahead, Mtukozo.
Okay, I just wanted to come in there. You see, this is why I call Phumza my leadership. You see, this is why. I just wanted to emphasize, she made a couple of points, a lot of them. One out there might not get all of them, because Phumza, she's something else. She mentioned the bond. She mentioned that person who's behind the child, who makes sure that he creates that bond between the child in terms of that push. How I fell in love with literature was by force and by chance. During my high school days, there was this English teacher of mine who used to force me to read, and they would say I read nice, and therefore I will always read, your comprehension, your essays, your poetry, and so on. And then I would get good marks, but I was not interested. Later, I discovered that I was actually good in literature, and I fell in love with literature at, I think, high matric. So I was pushed, being told, just read, you're reading beautiful, you write beautiful, you are getting good marks at this and that. So it's very important that we have such people that will be patient with you and will be able to spot the potential in these children. However, again, to emphasize on the benefits that she just raised now, especially she likes to quote the 7-year-old son. Phumza.
That's my best friend. That's my best friend. My little broke best friend.
I know. Okay. I believe, and we believe at Siyafunda Donator Book, that introducing a child into books, there are a lot of benefits. So some of the benefits are value, some of the benefits are your confidence, public speaking, being able to be well articulated because you read and you're able to pronounce words properly, and you can write well and well speak properly. And then on the other hand, I am of the view, personally believe that rural children have more thicker skin than children who have access to, example, for libraries in townships and in urban areas, because they strive, once they get a book, they make sure that they use the book in the right way, they take care of the book, and they appreciate just the essence of having that book. So that was just my point.
Thanks, Ntokozo. I also just want to add to Phumza, what we've spoken about is literacy, but I should have actually started off with what we mean when we say literacy. It's not just reading and writing. And I'm going to just use the definition that UNESCO gives us. And they say that beyond its conventional concept as a set of reading, writing, and counting skills, literacy is now understood as a means of identification, understanding, interpretation, creation, and communication in an increasingly digital, text-mediated, information-rich, and fast-changing world. And that's what we've been saying. That's what we've been talking about. It's communication between adult and children. It's identification, understanding the world around us, understanding pleasantries and please and thank yous, and you know, how to engage with the people around you. That is what literacy is. So we need to think about it beyond just the conventional, traditional being able to read and write. And I love that we also spoke about storytelling and the oral tradition of storytelling, because that is really important. And then finally, Ntokozo, I'm going to bring you in because I want to talk about the social impact of these initiatives in the communities that you are so close to and that you speak of with such heart and enthusiasm and passion. What is the social benefit in these communities?
Okay, great question. Great question. All right, there's quite a few to what we've seen and what we've witnessed in these rural communities, and we've been to 7 provinces, by the way. So we've reached plus minus 18,000 children. We've donated plus minus 375 books, children's books. Mostly 80% of those books are African or indigenous language books, your Zulus, your Xhosas, your Isindebele, Isiswati, and so forth. And we have been able to donate to 45 rural schools and 3 e-libraries, of which we want to continue doing in the coming years, especially next year. We couldn't do anything this year because of this COVID. So we have a nice project called Operation Tobetsa. Tobetsa is a Sotho word which means siyabangena, we press, you know. We that's how, you know, when you type on your computer, that's Tobetsi. You know, Puseleto will tell you more about Tobetsi. Yeah, you know. Yeah. So we have a project that we want to establish more e-libraries, which will have more impact in our rural communities, because children will be able to learn how to operate a computer from the age of 8, 9 up until she or he exits to grade 7. And we want the child to be able to navigate and work on a computer, use the Word document, use the slideshows, be able to use such communication networks, your Zoom, your Facebook, your Twitter, and so forth, just for communicating. And other things, you know, maybe you can start a business over this, you can start having a typing, whatever, done there. So we want to inspire kids to do that. So we have started with this project. We have done 3 schools, 1 in Wanongoma and KZN, 1 and 2 in Limpopo, Mokobola and Sehloi primary schools, where we have donated 10 computer libraries. And we say towards the school governing body that please create it access for the SGB members, as well as the community that are interested in learning how to type, how to write, how to read, because we've installed, you know, your books there at soft copies, ebooks in these schools. So children have books. They're donated by Book Dash, by the way. I'm sure you know them, Julia. So we have these books, plus minus 1,002, if I'm not mistaken, books on each computer. So children can read, and that's how we will start to make them excited, to get them excited to learn how to type. And then we have programs on application, how to use these applications, your word. You start by writing your short bio, who you are, where you come from, and so on and so on and so forth. So that has been our biggest achievement so far. And with regards to the schools and the libraries, we want these kids to be able to be self-reliant. That's resilient. They must be able to stand up on their own after at least grade 7. They must be able to speak well. They must be able to write well. They must be able to even be able to navigate what's happening in the computer and all the components, and operate the components of the computer and so forth.
Thanks, Ntokozo. You know, this conversation has really reminded me about, so I grew up in a small town in Rustenburg, a small community within Rustenburg. And in this community, we had a very, very small library, and it played a big part in my childhood. And as we're speaking and talking about literacy, I'm almost getting this, you know, the smell of old books, you know, that smell, I can get it. Library, that smell of old books, it's so comforting. And so I'm sure for everyone, that library and books, it's a very visceral thing, and it stimulates memories. And that's why each and every one of us is passionate about reading and literacy, the expanded definition of literacy. So I want to close this conversation. I've had a lot of fun, and I think that we've had
You've just reminded me of my my primary school and high school days when we used to go to the library and read Sweet Valley High. Do you guys remember Sweet Valley High? Maybe I'm revealing my age here.
Sweet Valley High. Yeah.
Valley High, yeah.
I just had that memory flash into my mind now as you were speaking about the library and the smell of books and that setup.
And I can't remember the title of the book, but it's about those little boy detectives. And you'd find the answer to the story, I can't remember. Was it the Mysterious Five or something like that? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's a detective book. No?
Yeah, I think I have a bit of an idea.
Yeah.
And they had kind of had magical superpowers or something like that. I don't know.
No, they didn't have magical superpowers.
Sounds like Stephen King's books.
Okay, never mind. It's too long ago. So thanks, guys, for this conversation. I just want to wrap up by saying that it is International Literacy Day. Well, it's almost the end of International Literacy Day, but it's National Book Week, running up until the 13th of September, if I'm not mistaken. And so I encourage everyone to, with their children, take a picture of their favorite book or reading with their child, whether it's a wordless book or a book with words. Take a picture, post it to social media, post it to our Facebook page, tag us at Zero Dropout, and hashtag passport to tomorrow. So hashtag passport to tomorrow, tag us. And just keep reading. And thanks everyone for joining us. And let's keep finding innovative ways to build a society that values reading. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Raima.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.